We are back for more Korean StarCraft. This time, it's going to be Solar versus aLive. That's the fun of SSL. You get the same 10 players over and over in different matchups, and they're 10 of the best players in the world. So definitely going to be a treat.
This would have been a very hype matchup last season with aLive's run, of course, through the Super Tournament. He was looking a lot better in Season 1 in the round-robin stage, but unfortunately finding himself 0-3 and 0-6. He has not won a single map here for Season 2, so you really have to wonder, can he even take a map off of Solar, who's definitely, I feel like, plugged a lot of the holes in his ZVT play that we were worried about for him in the past, and he has the massive advantage in Legacy of the Void records as well. 15-6 seems to be a just brick wall for aLive. He can't break through.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, you know, we look at Biel, and he's having a lot of trouble, right? He was 0-3, now he's 0-4, but at least he makes the matchups close. He takes one game, brings it to Game 3, almost wins Game 3, and then, you know, it's kind of a pity, but he doesn't win any games. He's sitting at 0-4. But when we watch aLive, it's kind of like what we were feeling out of Zest and SOS last season, where it's like this guy just gets stomped every week, and it doesn't really get any better. He has a lot of trouble winning games. He tries different strategies, tries to out-micro his opponents and do aLive things, you know, go for lots of drops, and no doubt he'll be doing that a lot in this game against Solar, but I feel like in terms of form, definitely Solar is the obvious pick for me and you and everyone watching. And another Splice player looking to take another win tonight. We'll see if he can do it.
He got out of his GSL group with a 2-1 score, winning it in the final match, so focusing on 2 tournaments at once here. aLive, not so lucky. And, I mean, I feel like the matchup here, we talked about it a lot before going into this best of 3. It feels like it's going to be aLive, triple drop ship aggression. He's going to be trying to find ways into Solar. He's going to be microing really hard. His macro will slip. That's what aLive does. He's the guy who's going to stop macroing because he's microing 3 different drop ships to make sure his Marines are in between the minerals so that the Zerglings can't surround them. But if he doesn't find a way through, especially as we go into Overgrowth, I think that's his best map here of the 3 we have, Abyssal Reef, Overgrowth, and Ascension to Ire. I feel like that he may just flop here 0-2, as most are expecting.
It's not what we want to see. I mean, he was channeling a little bit of Bible Thump there in the booth before with a frown on, but I hope he turns that frown upside down and plays a little bit better going into this one, because he's been around for so long. And he needs to play well against this really strong player. So let's see what he can do as we jump into game number 1. Fly, better fly, Jin Air. Down here in the bottom right, the purple Zerg from Splice. It is Solar.
And actually, his opponent to the top left in blue is aLive. Something interesting about the map draft for this one is the draft for aLive is bigger maps. He wants Abyssal Reef and Frost. Those are his 2 highest drafted picks. Third one, Newkirk Precinct, which isn't a big shocker given aLive's playstyle, but it's Solar who actually takes Overgrowth to be the first, and that's why it's going to be our second map. So aLive not wanting to channel his aggression necessarily in this best of 3. We'll be going gas first, however.
Yeah, he likes to do this a lot, not just in TVZ, but also in TVT. We saw him do this a couple of times against Innovation, when Innovation was just going for crazy proxies and saying, hey man, get out of my game. But
when's the Kanata announcer pack coming out? And when's the Daehyun announcer pack coming out? And when is the Engine announcer pack coming out? So the sign said.
Looking out for their caster buddies. I know one of the big casters out here in Korea. Did just get his own caster pack.
Caster Park.
No, Caster Park. He's definitely a very talented guy, doing a bunch of Blizzard games. So it's pretty cool to see him get one. And you're going to see aLive do this kind of build that we have seen before. It's the Gas First Reaper Expand, which allows him to get very fast tech on top of what he does get with the faster expand. Not the fastest expand you can do, but it's kind of a nice catch-all.
Yeah, I lost my voice suddenly. Hope it comes back.
You sound so sad. It's a good build, I promise. You don't have to cry, Wolf. Let's give it another shot.
All right, I think my voice is back to normal now. Kind of. I don't know what I got. Maybe I just ate a mosquito or something.
There's definitely a lot of bugs around here in Korea.
It's the season for those.
Yeah, it's the season to be not jolly because there's bugs everywhere, as it is monsoon season, and it's very humid. It's very hot, so
it's
these
also
bugs definitely thrive.
It's rainy season, so we just had a bunch of rain, and so that means that the rain water kind of stagnates on the ground, and then you end up with all sort of mosquito eggs. And like I am the mosquito assassin. I will kill every mosquito that ever comes in contact with me, but I don't like to. But these things are required sometimes during this season.
You don't like to?
Well, I just prefer not to see them at all.
Oh,
but
yeah.
But when I do, they better stay far away from me. So we're going to have the fast Overlord speed here for Solar, so he's going to be able to scout early on. What the play here is from aLive, which looks to be a Widow Mine drop with some Marines. And we're going to see the Reaper come in here, may soften up some drones, but mostly just looking for the scout. Needs to micro that, though. In fact, may even just lose this. Barely saves it.
Couple of scratches away from death. But
so scouts the starport with the medevac, doesn't see the Widow Mine, but can see the reactor factory, so pretty likely prepared for this. Actually starts spores at home even.
And he comes in here with the speed, yeah. I mean, he sees everything. It is going to be a Raven, though. No Banshee, no Cloak, nothing crazy. Don't see that all too often nowadays, but yeah, just one medevac, or one Widow Mine in the one medevac, looking for a cheeky explosion here in the natural, but the spore is already there, a bunch of lings.
Yeah, this does nothing. At least he saves both. You know, sometimes you'll see people try to force this and just get the one drone kill and end up losing the Widow Mine. I actually prefer this. Reaper actually could maybe harass these drones. Doesn't look like he's paying attention to that right now. Did just make a third CC at home and was clearly microing these Marines to push the Overlord out. So it will be Bio now as the transition, of course. Not going to be the Mech Terran here aLive, not known for that in this matchup right now, in this meta. And we'll be going in that stim. Third base scouted very early by the Overlord speed, and Solar is quite literally running circles around aLive right now. We'll force the cancel on this, very likely. There's the cancel. He was looking elsewhere, so didn't bring his Marines over. He only has the 6 of them. If he had the Hellions and the Marines reacted perfectly, might have been able to prevent that, but he had the medevac that he was controlling, trying to force that Widow Mine to find damage. And this is what aLive does. He takes his attack, he micros it, he focuses on that more than the bigger picture oftentimes, and Solar just punishes him.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's not, doesn't make that much sense. You know, you already saw the spore. You saw that Solar has a bunch of lings. If they're not in position to defend the Widow Mine, then they're going to be harassing your third. So either you go for the super risky Widow Mine play, and you lose the Widow Mine because you're running into a bunch of lings that are already there, or the lings are not there, and he cleans it up with the Queen anyway, and the spore that's there, and he denies your third base. So definitely not the nicest set of things to come out here for aLive.
And keep in mind, too, this was not like a massive overcommit to lings or anything like that. He made them reactionary after he saw aLive's build, wanted to keep him contained, and he was very pleasantly surprised that the third base was on the low ground, which, against a player who didn't have Overlord speed, aLive probably would have gotten away with that. You wouldn't blindly assume that was there and send a swell of lings across the map, but now he finds himself down 20 workers. He has the third base up in the main, So that's going to have to be lifted down, but it's so far delayed. His stim wasn't out early enough for him to hit a very strong timing. He's still going to hit a decent one here with the 1-1 upgrades, but it just feels like everything's a little bit disjointed now. The Raven is going to find some extra value here, though, to get the creep pushed away.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, he's going to deny all that creep down there where Solar might have wanted to take a 4th base, and it's kind of a ragtag group of units. He does have that one Widowmine still alive, which is nice. And the speed is not done, so these Banelings are going to have a hard time getting down the ramp, and the Lings are not going to do so well. The Hydras are pretty nice that he did add in.
I think he had a perfect opportunity there to hit the Banelings if there wasn't the Widowmine, and he knew it was there. You really have to respect the patience from Solar in that moment, because you could tell it was like, oh, they're all just stuck in the choke point. I just smashed them with the Banelings and killed them all. But saw the Widowmine, pulled back, tried to trigger it twice with Lings, and then backed away, knowing that it was pretty unlikely for that to actually occur. Now he's cleared it with the Hydras here. He's actually getting Hydra's speed, which will be done in just a moment. And he stabilizes, can take a 4th base, as he is. Gets an Infestation Pit coming up right now, and aLive is still just trying to finish his combat shields. 1-1 is done. Doesn't have an armory. Oh, yes he does. He just didn't start the 2-2. Does start it now.
He's getting that on the way, and Solar, he's going to be playing a very cool style, something we don't see all too often. It's Ling, Bane, Hydra in ZVT, and Baneling drops coming in. There's no response here from aLive. This is going to get so much damage, 12 SCVs in total.
So efficient. And yeah, like you were saying, the style isn't that common, but it's very good against, with the position that Solar set up on the high ground, the kind of drop aggression that was coming out could have shut down those medevacs that tried to back away there after the harass was going up. So it is weird, but I can't really question it. He was far enough ahead to where it ended up working really well for him there. It didn't really need to have any direct confrontations. And when a Terran player is sitting back with very few units on the map for this long, the Zerg player always feels fine. That's why he's got the Hive on the way already. And as I say that, he does put a little bit of aggression on, but only kills 2 Overlords. Oh boy. This splash damage from the Siege tank could even end up hurting these SCVs. Gonna go ahead and focus down that tank. Indecisive here, wants to fight these Marines. Banelings.
No. Ooh, that's a ton of mules and 12 SCVs in total. Solar just all over this guy tonight.
Well, it's funny because I can't be too critical of aLive there. He's like, oh, you're going to attack into my Marines? Fine. I guess I send the SCVs back. Then he was stimming and microing his Marines, but didn't expect the Banelings to come in, which was kind of unusual. He's got another set of them out here. Could come in at any moment to kill even more SCVs, more in the Overlord as well. I believe those are Banelings anyways. Could be Hydras. This is going to be the surround, and with Hydras here, we'll just push this away.
It feels like he's playing against Protoss with Baneling drops, with run-bys at the 3rd. It's very interesting style.
And he's got Hydras too, yeah.
It's and it's actually working. I mean, it's getting into the back line of aLive. He's not responding very well.
But I mean, look at the map now. He had to go back and defend. He lost so many of his army units. When the Zerg map looks like this in any situation and there's a Hive done, it means he's just banking money. Ultras Caverns on the way. He's completing the upgrade chain. 2-2 done for aLive, but +3 Carapace is already on the way for Solar. He's getting his adrenal glands, and he's going to have a massive amount of Ultralists very soon. What does aLive have to counter that? Doesn't even have the 3-3 yet. He will have this planetary setup, but he's just not putting any pressure on the Zerg, which means Bank is building over and over and over again. This is a game where if aLive can't find something very soon, we may very likely even see Broodlords, because he just has so much space to work with. He can make those, he can make tech switches. Ooh. Good pick up here.
Yeah, just in time, but it did a nice bit of damage. And that's why it was kind of surprising to see Solar picking the very short map of Overgrowth. I think it's just because he's 3-0 on that map, and it has been one of his favorite maps for a very long time, and lots of different matchups, but you can see how he's just totally pulling aLive apart when it comes to these big maps that are very defensive. You know, he's taking every advantage that aLive is giving to him, and he looks very good doing it. So it's kind of cool to see that he can do this on lots of different types of and styles of maps.
Okay, we're going to see this big sim attack here now. He's got 1 Marauder in the mix. He's actually clearing a lot of creep with this. This is the window of time before the Ultras are out, but the Hydras do come in for the flank. Picks off a few of those Marines with their high range. The Ultras are ready now. +3 Carapace, halfway done. The Chitinous plating, nearly done. Banelings go and reinforcements. I've seen everything now.
This is like attack move banelings. I think aLive wasn't paying attention at all. He could have just rolled up the ramp into the natural if he wanted to. But he's picking off a lot of the reinforcements, and this is just going to make his attack even stronger.
4 drones killed to the Raven harass, not the most incredible Raven of all time, but yeah, he's just falling apart to these harassments. His army is never
adrenal
going to
glands.
together. Yeah,
he's doing so much damage with that. I mean, he has
he's not
+2 melee.
Either. And he might even kill these eBays before +3 finishes.
Oh, he's going to. That is huge.
Oh my god. He's going to save the attack at least, which is the more important of them, but I mean, as I said, this is the time where the Zerg just built bank. 1,200 gas in the bank. He's getting +1 flyers. And I'm not even sure. I don't think he made a Greater Spire, but he's like, no, I just might as well get this to be safe because we're going there. If I can't kill you, I'm going to kill you with Broodlords later. And aLive is surviving. He's got a massive siege tank count. He has the +3 attack now because he saved that one at least. But he's never able to accomplish anything. And eventually holding onto these bases won't mean anything if the Zerg has the rest of the map conquered, has a massive gas bank, 1,300 as we speak. And we got the Vipers here. You might just want to break this with Blinding Cloud, and I think he very well may be able to do it.
There's not enough Liberators right now. Oh, he's going for the E-base. That one is actually burning down. He can get it with the Lings, but the +3 is already done, so he wants to get some other damage.
He should never have this many choices, but he does, because aLive is so focused on the center of the map. He has very little at home. I'm watching a main base defended by Liberators right now. The Yanks are coming in on these Liberators. Speaking of which, so many Banelings rolling through.
The tank's not sieged for half the fight. A huge concave of Hydras. This is going to be enough, though. Those Ultras are falling down pretty fast, but they are pretty tanky in the end, and all the Hydras do survive. So Solar going to be able to easily remax, totally crushes aLive's army, and will probably take the crushing defeat here in game number 1.
Just a total outclassing here. This game is over.
Well said. I didn't have anything else to add. I'm like, yeah, pretty much GG. Solar crushing this guy.
There's several aspects to his advantages he took. First of all, the Hydras there to defend up in the choke point. Didn't need them. Was careful against the Widow Mine. The harassment, aLive struggled to deal with it. Baneling drops at multiple bases. Ling run-bys, the canceling of his 3rd base. These are the things that put him very far behind. And when he was able to stabilize and get the 4th base, he still couldn't defend because he was so his composition was so siege tank based. He had to be at that planetary to defend because he was behind and Ultras were out. Didn't have anything to defend his E-bays even that were going down. There should never be a moment where 4 Banelings roll into a Terran's natural late game when, by the way, the Terran is maxed out, where the Banelings are like, should we kill the E-bays or maybe get the depot wall?
Should we roll into the main, maybe?
Should we kill the SCVs of the natural, or should I try to go to the main base?
Let's hit the production, perhaps. Yeah, it was pretty ugly. I mean, there were just way too many angles of attack for Solar, which is really one of the things that he loves on any map, which is part of the reason why he loves Overgrowth. You know, coming from the left, coming from the right, you can attack from 2 angles, you can try to drop in the main. It really can get kind of feisty. And on Abyssal Reef, you can go towards the natural with the rocks. You can hit the 3rd, as he did. You can even go for drops into the natural because there's a lot of dead airspace up there towards the top side. You can attack straight in at the 4th, at the planetary. There's 2 ways to get in that way if you break down the rocks. So definitely just rolling him around the map, you know, in many different locations.
Sure.
And that's what Solar really loves to do.
And let's not forget, the 3rd base was canceled. The build was scouted by the Speed Overlord. He knew it was a Widowmine drop, saw it point blank in his face, defended, had the Spore Crawlers up. aLive spent all of his resources to defend, or to focus on that drop, to find value. He got 0 kills. He did nothing with it. So Solar just had all these massive advantages from the get-go and just snowballed them into a bigger lead.
Yeah, so guys, we're going to jump into game number 2 right now on Overgrowth. Here we go, game number 2. Up in the top right at 1 o'clock. It is Solar from Splice.
And down to the bottom left, his opponent aLive, totally outclassed in blue. So I mean, let's see a different game from this guy. I can forgive losing his third CC. He took a risk. He put it on the low ground. He was microing. I can forgive that. I can forgive that as well because you don't expect that swell of Lings to sneak by. I can forgive the defense there. aLive didn't expect the Hydras. The Banelings were in good position. Couldn't actually find any damage. What I can't necessarily forgive is the lack of response to the Baneling drops in his natural that we saw time and time again. The lack of defense against the run-bys. When I was making the jokes about the run-bys, what he has so many things to choose, I saw aLive queue a bunker because he was like, I guess I can't see these quickly enough. I'm not prepared for these. I should make a bunker or something like that. But those are the things that's a little bit tougher to forgive. And then we go into a straight-up game where they're on even footing going into 3-base versus 3-base. Let's see if he's more focused. Maybe his reaction time is a little bit faster because he was basically playing with one hand tied behind his back the entire time with the advantages that Solar had. The extra pressure, the Ultras coming over. That's why he was so focused on having that siege line set up, having the planetary set up. Because if he loses that 4th base, then he loses the game. He knows that Solar has such a massive bank.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. I think Solar on this map it's like he gets a buff on this map or something. It's quite obviously one of his favorite maps, if not his favorite. He loves to take that gold. It's doubtful that he'll do it here against aLive unless he wants to really show off and just kind of play with his food. But I wouldn't expect that. And it looks like actually aLive is going to start off with a bit of a different build, adding a second barracks here.
With the SCV here, it almost looks like he wants to Reaper to try to force out a bunch of Lings, or sorry, a bunker, I should say, with the Reaper. Does not, however, pulls the SCV to the 3rd base. Could bunker there after scouting with the Reaper. Only the 2 Lings. Just going to keep that SCV over there for the time being. Would be pretty overzealous to commit to an eBay there, but if he sees that there's very few Lings made, that might be his plan. Try to get an economic lead. And in fact, he's going to make a bunker over there. So this is going to basically make it so that at least 10 Lings or so will have to be made, or the Queens will have to come over, do some transfuse work with some of those Lings to take the 3rd base. So pretty small investment. He was the first player to actually ever do this in StarCraft 2 was Bomber at the time on Team Startail. It's something we very rarely see nowadays because it's so easy to shut down, but Solar didn't see it in time, so it is going to complete. Reaper, if he can get over there, will keep it alive. Well, he set the Reaper down, though, for some reason.
Yeah, instead of sending him to the bunker,
he just has to salvage.
Yeah. I guess he just wanted to be safe with the Reaper. He didn't want to lose it to speed, but it delays the 3rd base by maybe 5-10 seconds. That's about it.
And most of the money back.
aLive is going to be following up with this stim timing that we have seen from time to time. That stim doesn't look like it's quite on time, though. It looks like a little bit late. So I'm not sure if he has this build perfectly down.
Nice micro here to try to catch the Overlord, but counter-wise Solar with good control to protect it. Yeah, the stim definitely a little bit late, but I think it's kind of insignificant. But I do want to highlight, because of the Marine control, he didn't scout what's coming, so he might actually play a little bit too safe right now, not being able to see the stim research, and maybe even start spores at home because he's nervous about this. Reaper, will he get home? Ooh, just barely. So this build, even if you do scout it, is so scary because you can't just make 2 spores and then save a few Lings. You actually have to control well, you have to take it seriously, make a lot of Lings, which forces less drones. But Solar doesn't seem to be too phased by the fact he hasn't scouted. He's just going to play safe, continue to drone. But aLive, the strength of hiding this means that Solar would have had to consider, what if it's the Widowmine drop again?
Yeah. And you did see a lot of Marines in position, so he has an idea of what's coming here. He's just spamming Lings, spamming Queens as much as possible. Already got up to 50 drones, which is not bad. Has the +1 Carapace on the way, which is, if this does get into a very extended kind of attack by aLive, that will eventually finish and make it a lot easier for Solar to hold off. He's going to skimp on the Baneling Nest. Hasn't made that at all. And as I say that, he puts it down.
Timing here is really crisp, but it looks like Solar just got wind of this a little bit too quickly. He has a lot of Lings here, but is going to use this Reaper to try to deflect them. Unfortunately, they waited with the Lings there, so forces the pick up there. The Reaper not there to hit the Lings at the proper moment. Too many Queens. And it just feels like I've seen this story before with aLive in this matchup. You know, Innovation would have hit just a little bit faster, right? Beyond would have hit just a little bit faster. aLive, they're too late. The Lings were out just in time. Didn't have that window where he could force the Lings to fight with too little of a number to try to kind of snowball that. But he's taken a third base behind this. He's got his combat shields, his 1-1 up. This time the third base on the high ground, taking the extra precaution here. And this group of units can still find something. Can still find damage, can find, you know, maybe kills a tumor, kills a queen or two.
I do think that he has to do a bit more damage than this. You know, he can't just go for this build and say, okay, we're going to kill 1 Overlord and 2 drones, and we're just going to be okay with that. I like that he did go to the Watchtower, clear out the Ling, and then try to drop towards the main. That is definitely very aLive, but he is going to run straight into the Overlord, so this will be spotted and shut down by a bunch of Lings. Solar, he kind of knows the transition. I mean, this build has been around for a very long time, so he knows he has time to get that 4th base up. He's even getting a macro hatchery at the same time, and his economy is going to begin exploding. He already got up to 67 drones immediately after that, and he's going to be spamming those Lings and Banelings as the follow-up.
So what he wants to do, too, is this is a really well-timed drop Overlord. So as you know, he does know the timing, or as you said, he does know the timing, but he knows that the units are going to come across at this moment now with this second attack. So he knows this timing very well and knows that no units will be at home. He has units at home because this is obvious and he has Overlord scouting this. But the Lings here in the main base only rallied units to defend them. In fact, he's going to get pretty good trades on these Marines. I like moves like this. If he had committed to 2 Overlord drops, aLive could have been in serious trouble. Even pulls his units back right now. Look at the creep spread in 3 directions right now. Completely untouched by aLive. Committed resources to drop the Marines in the main base instead of trying to hit that creep at its weakest point. We'll see if he drops a scan down at that point, down below the main base. Doesn't look like he has one ready.
Yeah. aLive, sometimes he looks a little bit scared to make big moves. Like, okay, I got my follow-up, I got some tanks, let's begin to poke. It's like he moves out into the middle of the map. He does gain map control for his 3rd base to come down, but then he kind of just stands there. And again, I'll say it again, Solar has had all the time in the world. And here we go again, another counterattack into the 3rd base.
And even if he brings everything back and staves this off, the bigger part of that sense is he brings everything back. So now Solar has the 4th base uncontested, can rebuild his creep to the right side below the main base. You can see Queen is making that right now as we speak on the minimap. He's going to rebuild that creep. The creep is going to get extended down to the gold base. And Solar just has his number right now. He knows every time he's going to move out. And even when aLive controls the watchtowers, he can't find angles to punish. This time, that was pretty good. That's going to be expensive, what he loses there. But the Hydra transition is real again. But this is the game I wanted to see where we talked about how he struggled to defend. He was playing with one hand tied behind his back. This is still a much closer game. I agree with you, he didn't get enough damage done, but he's not massively behind in upgrades this time. His 2-2's coming out of the crisp timing. He has a healthy army size, and he can still make a follow-up push happen. He's building up the siege tanks. He's probably going to wait until he has a critical mass of those and then move out. What he does against the counterattacks this time, though, again, we'll see if he can play better. Maybe put a bunker up at his 3rd base. I think that would be pretty reasonable considering how many times we've seen Lings and Banelings run by. Going to try to hit this gold base right now. Does force the cancel. So things looking much better for aLive in this second game.
Yeah, he's desperately trying to get his first map win. And Solar, I like the build that he goes for. He, at least on Abyssal Reef when he had more room, he just teched up the Hive extremely fast. And he is going to do it even on this map because he feels so safe, even taking the gold base at the same time. And I think he just uses the Hydras instead of the Infestors to say, okay, I'll just make 10 Hydras, and with enough Lings and Banelings, I should be able to hold off any attack before I get those Hive units, before I get the Ultras. And so far, we haven't really seen it tested. aLive hasn't really hit any big timings trying to kill Solar before he get the Ultras. In fact, it's Solar that's getting aggressive, and here we go. The Swarm is on the attack.
Half of his army up to the top was actually on move command there, just fed it to Solar's army, but Solar still doesn't have quite enough. There's no Widow Mines in this army, but there are siege tanks, so he's moving those forward right now. If they had been in better position with the AoE there, could have been a disastrous attack for Solar. But again, he doesn't smash aLive's army, and aLive gets a better trade, but he still doesn't accomplish anything with that. He hasn't been able to even walk up and clear creep. He's going to do so right now. But Solar just has so many lings. He's going to try to go for the flank, it looks like, and attack the third base. Baneling's connecting on these siege tanks. Not enough Hydras here, actually. This might have been an overextension. These lings that I was talking about for the flank are going to come around now. Will aLive respond to this? Okay, looks like he's not sure if he wants to commit to them. Just going to grab some siege tanks here. This is actually very nicely done.
Look at this. I mean, he's going to get 3 free siege tanks and then come from behind. aLive not microing those siege tanks, not getting them together with his army, not protecting them, and a good move by Solar to come around, swing his Iron Fist, and get some extra kills. So definitely buys himself a lot of time as he takes out the big, expensive chunk of aLive's army that aLive will have to rebuild. And even if aLive does get a planetary at the 4th base now, Solar is in a really good spot with Ultralisk Cavern on the way. We got Vipers here, and he bought himself a ton of time.
Yeah, he doesn't have the massive bank he had last game. He does have it in gas, but not in minerals, as he's trying to rebuild some drones, get the additional base up, keep enough lings out to defend this additional base. But I do feel like aLive is starting to get some real permanent damage done. He's got a really solid economy. He has 4 bases now. He's making double Liberators. He's got a decent Marauder count, one he did not have at all last game. So he's making a real argument for this game. He has the massive army supply lead. He's gotten efficient trades over and over against the Zerg army. Because Solar's been a little bit haphazard with his defenses. Tried to go for the fancy flank, but lost so many units as a result. Lost a lot of his Hydralisks. He does have the Ultralisk Cavern now, but can't afford to make very many Ultralisks. So just going to have to defend with his army yet again. aLive at the 4th base, and now he's got the built-up Marauder count and the built-up Liberator count to deal with said Ultralisks once they come out. Only 2 of them on the way.
Okay, here we go. aLive, he needs to go in here with +3 attack. It looks like he wants to hit 2 angles. Go into the main with a gigantic Doom Drop, but also hit the 4th base and even potentially this gold. Here we go. This is aLive's big moment to make some plays.
Okay, he's going to hit this base right now. Half of the army is actually split here. He's even bringing a Viper. I don't know if Solar's actually sent enough to the main base here. Not realizing this flank was coming over. All the army units are going away, and this is not enough. Just a few Hydras here. 4 Ultras on the way, but they're not ready yet. He didn't have time. Didn't have enough money to build up a critical mass of them. These Hydras are going to get crushed here, and it looks like we are going to a game 3. GG, aLive. Slow and steady wins the race there.
He's alive! He did it! He won a game!
And he was never able to really push the creep back massively. He was never able to do a crazy amount of damage with those units, but he never overcommitted. And so Solar didn't get the trades he wanted, got bad trades repeatedly, and didn't have the time with this Hydralisk comp this time to get the Ultralisks out. Started 4, they never finished. And aLive was like, okay, I'm going to hit you multiple locations. I've got a maxed out army. I've got the +3. You don't have high-tech units anymore. You got, what, a Viper here and there. He had Liberators, too, which didn't end up even being significant there. Yeah. He was ready for the Ultras, even if they did come out.
I like the idea of Solar's army composition if you're going head-to-head, just one army versus one big army. But when aLive splits like 5 or 6 even medevacs into the main and then sends the rest of his gigantic army over towards the 4th, Solar he didn't have enough units to spread out. The Hydras in low numbers are not going to do much. They're not going to be protected by a big enough swell of lings, a big enough swell of banelings, because it's not that gigantic army against gigantic army. So aLive, I think he identified that. He said, okay, you must be transitioning into Ultras as well. He got a good fight before that, and then he goes for the killing blow. And finally, Solar takes a loss, actually, on Overgrowth. He was 3-0 on that map before, and aLive finds his first win. So finally, we see some signs of life out of this player.
That's right. Game number 3 now. We're going into Ascension of Ire. This was another map Solar picked, so back-to-back Solar maps, Overgrowth, Ascension to Ire. Abyssal Reef was the map choice for aLive, but for Austin Newkid, we're not seeing them in this series. If he plays a similar game to what he did on Overgrowth, it won't be as strong on Ascension to Ire. It's too big of a map to play that style, but let's go into game number 3 to see if aLive could take his first series.
Still lots of aLive fans left over cheering his name after he finally gets that win. So down here in the bottom right, the Zerg player from Splice, it is Solar.
And up to the top left in blue, it is aLive. Bringing it back there. Slow and steady wins the race. Efficient trades. Trading with the Ling, Baneling, Hydra army. Off creep. Scanning when he could. Dropping in the main base, but never overcommitting. There was never a moment where aLive stepped onto creep and lost everything. Just did the right amount of pressure for an extended period of time. So let's see what happens as we go into this one. Not going to be the gas first. Very big map, so less effective, obviously. And the rush distance here is so immense that aLive won't be able to continue to rally across that kind of pressure. Solar will still be able to counterattack with Lings. It'll take him longer to do so. But it means that aLive is going to have to really commit. When he goes across the map with the majority of his army, Solar can get back to his base faster. So if he's not forcing Solar's Lings back, Solar will hit the base. So he can't just hover around the middle of the map. You know, kind of like what we were talking about right before the mid-game, where you were saying aLive, he does these attacks and he just kind of sits there. He can't do that on this map, or the Ling counterattacks will just get back to his base much faster than he can respond.
This map kind of reminds me of Overgrowth, but sideways and much bigger. You know, it has that gold base in those places. It has the 2 watchtowers in the middle. It has a very similar setup with the main that's pretty large, and you have a nice cliff towards the left side on this map, but also the location of the natural and the third is very similar. Add in a couple more bases, maybe, you know, 3 or 4 more bases with the size of the map, and it is very similar. So a bigger map. This will definitely give Solar more time to get to that late game stage that he found himself so comfortably in game number 1. And I think that he should be going for that similar style. Still not sure about this Hydra play. You know, the Ling Bane Hydra makes sense, I guess, against aLive. It helps out with the drops for sure, but when you're going up against a lot of tanks, doesn't really seem to be the best option.
No, I'm not so sold on it yet, but I feel like we need to see it tested more. It's not the first time we've seen it either. It's just a rarer style. And it does cost a lot of gas when you make that many Hydras, so your transition to Hive Tech can be a little bit less smooth when you don't crush the army of aLive in this case, or aLive's doesn't just do a Widowmine drop that does literally nothing. So aLive's going for a super fast 3rd CC, and 3 for 3. Solar is going to get the not Ling speed, the Overlord speed. He's getting Ling speed in all 3 games too. Big coincidence. And then he's going to use the Overlord to try to scout what aLive's up to. We'll see it's a fast 3 CC. And what he does next is really interesting to me. Will he commit to a fast 4th base? Does he try to do a big attack on this large map? Will we see the first Solar Mutalisk game? He's got options. The scout is the first step.
He's going to be denied for now, actually, as he sends in that Overlord before speed is done and aLive is on top of that positioning. There's only 1 more Overlord.
Well, he saw the CC, though.
Okay, that is very important.
If he didn't see the CC, that would have been, it would have been like, oh man, you just hurt yourself. You shot yourself in the foot. So getting the second Overlord in is going to be a lot harder with more Marines out now. Okay, a few Hellions are on the map, and he starts stim. You're seeing the normal 3-base transition here. And because of the rush distance on this map, he'll probably feel pretty confident in dropping down the 3rd CC at his 3rd base location in just a sec. And he's just made it into an orbital. He'll drop the first mule and move it over there as the Marine count gets higher, starting now his 3rd barracks. Hellion's just going to scout. Actually going to get into the natural here. Bit of a surprise. Does kill those Lings immediately. There's so many Queens here, though.
Yeah. Generally, they don't do too much damage.
Ooh,
but
the drone pull here.
Okay. Lining him up, saying, hey, take some of these drones. They're pretty tasty in summer. Got 4 of them in total for the 2 Hellions, so definitely a nice trade-off in general, especially with the pull. And he got a full scout of the main, too, so.
And with triple SCV production, he didn't actually lift the CC yet, but he's producing SCVs, and has been producing since it finished. It's actually staying even in workers, and for Terran, that's amazing, because it doesn't count mules, which are more efficient than drones. And he will have the double E-bays up to really match the upgrade timings of Solar. Solar doesn't have any advantages in this game right now. And I think this is what we were wondering is, what is he going to do when he sees the third base? How is he going to get ahead when he has that information? And he's not taking a fourth base. He's not showing us any unique tech or anything like that. So we're going to see how he does this in the next few moments. But the follow-up attack for aLive, now that he has most of his barracks online, he's going to add the additional 4th and 5th here with the stim. Very, very scary. He's going to have a large army. So Solar is preparing with the Baneling Nest. He needs to start Baneling speed immediately when that lair is done.
Yeah. I think Solar's
Even
idea...
a macro hatch. I love this. This is a smart move.
Solar's idea was just to make as many drones as possible, as fast as possible, and say, okay, you're not going to attack me for a while. I can get away with this. I can be ultra greedy and basically just make 9 lings and 6 queens, and that's about it. And he has gotten away with it for now, and this is a very big map, and he's going to see this attack coming miles away. He has the Baneling Nest on the way. Is making lings finally, and he has enough queens to deal with this. At least he should, as long as he doesn't mess anything up. And what's interesting to me is that he delays the 4th base for so long. I guess he wants to shut down this attack first and then go for the 4th base. And he does add that macro hatchery instead, as you did mention. So aLive just pokes in, takes out some creep tumors, sees, okay, you have some units out, I'm just going to back off.
If he could clear the creep to the bottom part of the map, like the one that's near the left of the natural, for that 4th base, I feel like he'd be in a great position for a follow-up push. Doesn't realize the scope of the units that are down there, though. It doesn't have medevacs, so can't really stick around much longer. If he had the medevacs, could have maybe tried to make that happen. He's got them now, though, and they're going to, of course, heal up the Stim Marines and combat shields. The 1-1's going to finish. Remember, the 5 barracks are done. And he is just cranking units out here. Now that the add-ons are complete, we're going to see a ton of Marine production. Is focusing on this dropship right now, however. So the Armory is going to line up with these 1-1 upgrades. Not producing any Marines at all right now, in fact, for some reason. I wanted to see exactly what his production was add-ons-wise. Okay, it looks like he was just really slipping with his macro there. Missed like 2 whole cycles of Marines, I think. Anyway, 9 at a time with this. So even though he didn't hit those cycles right away, he does have a great amount of production. He's just so focused on army control right now, and this queen is just planting tumors to die. This is the clear-up I was talking about. So now he has another alternate attack path, and the queens are going to have to come all the way down here to reset those tumors now. Big scans. He wants to find a juicy drop location, I suppose. And does see there's no hive, yeah.
The tech is very important. You need to know the timing for when the Zerg is going to get specifically the ultras out here, or, you know, is he going for hydras again? So he gets all the information he could have hoped for, sees the infestation pit timing, can assume that the hive is coming up next, and he's just going to add in 3 more barracks. So wants to macro up like mad here as he secures a 4th base with the planetary.
You have to assume those 3 barracks are, of course, the Tech Lab barracks, so you can make those Marauders. So that's the transition. Look, he's getting the concussive shells too after that scan. So very good call by you. This is exactly what he's looking for. And will be, it looked like he wanted to find a drop on the main base. Scouted by the Overlord, does pull out. And finally that 4th base is coming over. Not set up yet, but he's in a good spot. Oh, this would be huge if he can get this. He scans, he's nothing nearby. Knows the creep wasn't very well connected here either. Gets the drone, and it's going to get some free banelings too. aLive in a very good position. His economy is good. He's hitting his 2-2 upgrades so swiftly. Clears up more creep here, and he's going to get out. He's playing the bigger maps much better than Solar is. And it's going to now pick up. Well, I guess maybe not looking there. Should pick up and get away with this one. He has now, the 4th base has started. He's going to be on even bases soon. He has good upgrades. He had all the infrastructure to add the Marauders. He's making 7 Marines and 3 Marauders at a time, 2 Siege Tanks as the Ultraviolet Cavern starts. Feels very much like the Overgrowth game.
Yeah, look at this army. He's going for it. He's pulling the innovation. He says, okay, no altars for you.
Now, if he hits this, and he gets even an even trade, perhaps poor choice of words there, but if he gets just an even trade here, he's still going to get so much value out of this because there's no bank again for Solar to make those Ultras, to get them out in time. He's just going to have to keep making Ling Bane. 2-2's done. Okay, weak siege here, though. He does have to back off, but he's got more army. Now he's going to try to turn this around. He's surrounded. Can pick up onto the high ground. The siege tank is vulnerable.
The only thing is that the Hydras can't get underneath those medevacs, so you force him to pick up, but that perfect positioning with Ascension to Ire where you have that high ground in the middle is going to really benefit aLive there, because if you're just on the run and you run out of boost and, you know, Zerg creep is going across the map, you're playing Overgrowth or something, then you might have been in trouble. But the map helping out. The only thing is that this does buy Solar a lot of time to get that Ultralisk Cavern up. And this is what we were talking about before. A bigger map like this, it should be Solar getting to this tech once again, as he did on Abyssal Reap. But this time, no crazy Baneling drops, no crazy run buys into the third base. aLive has played it like a closed door. You're not getting in. It is locked and sealed. Yeah. And so far, you know, he has been macroing up to this. He still has a very strong army. He's just struggling to find an angle on a map this big.
And because the map was big, it bought Solar enough time to get those ultras. I said if he got an even trade, it would never be able to get the ultras, but he didn't get anything at all. In fact, lost a few of his units, had to back away. Solar has rebuilt all the creep now. Tries to find a drop over here, can't make it happen. Looks like he wants to go into the Liberator range upgrade for Liberators, adding an additional starport and the Fusion Core, and just wants to play Supreme late game here. We'll probably add additional starports to get Vikings if we see the Broodlord transition. As soon as Solar realizes, okay, wait, you're sieged up in the middle of the map, I'm adding a Spire. We're going Supreme late game. We're going to have tech switches. We're going to have this very scout-heavy, this very composition-heavy late game where I need to make sure I have the Broodlords when you don't have the Vikings. I can switch back to Ultras, building up the bank, 800 gas right now. And sensor towers are going up. And we're going to that slow-pace late game where the Lings are going to be less and less value. It's going to be about the Ultras. It's going to be about the Corruptors that eventually come out when that Spire is complete. This is an expensive exchange here, actually, for Solar. I'm not entirely sure what he's doing with these. Looking elsewhere, looking at this, grabbing a few siege tanks. Small price to pay.
He runs in and gets a good hit onto those Marines, but yeah, a bit of the multitasking slipping for a couple of these guys. And definitely a good spot here for aLive. I mean, not the biggest bank in gas for Solar, only 1,300, and he doesn't have an insane amount of Ultras. He only has 3, whereas aLive, he's got that crazy Liberator production coming up, has tons of CCs coming in. This is a nice snipe by Solar, though, to come on over, and no cancel even.
Yeah, no cancel. He eliminated both sensor towers as well, so vision of these run buys is no longer known. I think aLive got a little bit overzealous there. Sure, controlling the center is the biggest focal point, and it's the fastest distance as the crow flies across the map, or as the Ling runs, as they say in StarCraft, across the map. But if you just flank and avoid them, then your units are in the wrong place. Finds himself losing a CC, may lose it again here. Then the center tower, when he does go to defend that, the center towers are removed. So Solar is removing so much vision here. Starting to build that massive bank now. Has a second Spire on the way so he can get the upgrades while also getting the Greater Spire. We're seeing Ghost Academies come out. We're going to see Snipes. We may even see, if he adds additional Ghost Academies, some nukes here. Another Ling run by, nothing to defend, just the one Liberator. That is nowhere near enough.
A good pull there, though, by aLive this time around. So not too many lost SCVs. Actually, he might be just fine with losing SCVs at this point in the game. And
I think he might have lost the Ghost Academy there, too. I think he actually did. We'll have to wait and see. I think it actually was in that area and was blown up while being constructed, because I didn't see it on the production tab anymore. Don't see it in your structure tab. That's going to be annoying.
The structure tab can be a little bit funky at times.
This is true.
I can go for a scout myself. He lost a refinery. That might have been what he lost, but
okay.
Either way,
he's just not making any ghosts either, so
we'll have to revisit that, as there is a Nidus in the main right now, and aLive, it looks like he has identified this. Lots of units coming back, but this is a big horseshoe effect. He's got to go all the way around.
Look at the minimap. This is when Solar just says, oh, okay, I got some of your add-ons. No more ghosts for you, but really, please pay attention to me. But he's looking for counterattacks. The main base, though, or sorry, the CC to the, I guess, 8 o'clock position, you could call it, was already lifted. As aLive is like, oh, okay, I know your game. I'm going to shut this down. You're going to counterattack me over there. Pulls the CC away before he even sees the units. And scan just to see if there's any Burrowlings over there so he could replace that. Really careful play by aLive, good reaction. And yeah, the Ghost Academy was killed, man. He's making another one right now.
No Ghost Academy. I just did a full scan of the entire base. He actually isn't rallying a couple of Liberators in the back, too. So one of those starports that was newly made is also not rallied. Another small mistake
StarCraft is hard. You know, at this late game when you're defending Ling run-bys and big Ultralisk attacks, Nidus Network, sometimes you forget these things. 13 Liberators he does have on the map. Can handle the air pretty well, but it doesn't have the range that the Vikings will have that he will eventually need to deal with the Broodlords that are coming out. This is not going to be a fight he wants to take. Parasitic Bomb on all these sieged up Liberators.
Oh, that is so much damage, and they're not attacking these units. He's caught in the choke. Nice kiting here, though, as the Banelings can't exactly get by. The Liberators, though, are going to be totally cleaned up.
And that was the most expensive, the most difficult part of the army to replace. The most expensive part of Solar's army is just about to walk back on creep. These Ultras getting out, every single one of them escapes. Insanely efficient for Solar. Difficult to replace. 4 Liberators at a time is all he can do. It's more expensive. It builds slower. Replacing the bio, that's no problem, but replacing the Liberators, not so much. Additional air upgrades coming out here for Solar. And he is actually able to take control of the high ground with this play. Now we're going to start to see split map. We're going to see every single base on the map taken. We're going to see that base at the 12 o'clock. Solar probably try to grab onto that soon, and the 6 o'clock because he did control that high ground. Sensor towers are up, but Solar has the better bank, and he wants to keep it that way. The first few ghosts are now being made too.
The first few 6 ghosts on the map. That is a huge commitment, and well, he has been able to rebuild that Liberator count, so that's really nice. Still has 7 of those. And Solar just trying to secure all the map, or the bases rather, that he can in total.
Notice how liberally he's moving with his army too. He's moving into these narrow choke points and scary modes because he knows he can escape, probably because aLive is playing so far back. And he's okay with losing Ultras because he's ready to make some more Corruptors. He's ready to make Broodlords. With these upgrades. Going to actually commit to this Planetary, forces the SCV pull. I'm not sure if he'll connect with those Banelings, but he will get the Planetary regardless. No repair there. That's what the Banelings are for. If the SCV's repaired, they would die. 2 of them die regardless. All right, so the Ghost count's getting higher. These Ultras are getting less and less valuable.
Trading 2 Ultras for the CC. Not too bad at this point in the game. And well, that wasn't the best trade for Solar.
Baneling, it's like 18 Banelings to kill 1+3 Armor Marauder.
Yeah.
It's not quite that bad, but it feels that bad.
Well, we do have 9 Broodlords on the map here. Yeah. They're not ready yet, but they are about to be. And immediately the scan comes down and 5 Vikings on the way. So aLive, his goal is going to be okay. I need to get enough Vikings to deal with the air army of Solar, which, by the way, is pretty massive at this point. You got 8 Corruptors, 9 Broodlords, 2 Vipers, and even 6 Hydras on the ground to help out with that. So he just needs to wait until he has enough stuff to deal with the air army here.
Okay, this is going to be a huge positional move. He wants to draw aLive's army back so he can fully take control of that high ground and then start to work on the sensor towers from there. A bunch of missile turrets being added as well to help protect his Vikings against the Corruptors. These Ultras are not actually in position to go in there. It looks like he just wants to force him back with 1 Ling. Okay.
1 Ling!
Well, it turns out aLive is not taking the bait. Look at the massive Doom drop to the bottom of the map. aLive is not taking the bait at all. He didn't even have units here to deal with this. And he's just going to send everything across the map. He knows the ground army for Solar is tiny. He's going to Doom drop here. Multiple locations. Looks like the 4th base here, the main base, is under attack. Units that were headed to the Nidus are coming back now. Broodlord's still moving forward here, but he doesn't have a lot to deal with this Bioforce in the main base. +2, Claribus is dead.
That is so much with that Doom drop, and all of Solar's big units are way, way too slow. 1 Ultralisk? That's not going to be enough to take out all those Marauders. He deals with this at the 4th base, but what about his Hive? What about his tech?
Now, the Planetary is going to go down here eventually to the Broodlords, but aLive just has enough to stall time to get more Vikings, get more Ghosts out here. This is insanely effective. Look, he can even buy time with the repair. He's doing way better than Solar is here. Even going to try to snipe some of these Broodlords out on the retreat. Wanted to ignore those Corruptors for just a moment. There's way too many to ignore at this stage. He has the way better air upgrades, Solar does. aLive has not really been focused on that. I want to check and see what he has. No air upgrades whatsoever. He's starting his first ship weapons right now.
That's going to be important, especially for the Vikings. Well, Solar, he hangs on, but he doesn't even have a Hive. He lost his spawning pool. He's starting from 0 with his tech. He still has his Greater Spire, which is nice, but he lost his Ultralisk Cavern, which is going to be a little bit more important, especially when the eventual transition comes in.
Just so much more mobile of an army here for aLive. Kill 6 more drones. It's not like he's starving for drones right now. He's still got 44, and didn't hold on to that 12 o'clock base, so he's okay with this small drone count, but this is going to become significant later. These, if he had killed the Greater Spire and the Hive, that would have been good, or would have been fantastic, more than good. The Nidus network is still open, and I'm surprised aLive hasn't sent anything to deal with that, and Solar hasn't used it either. Again, as we always say, StarCraft is hard, and at this stage of the game, you may forget small things like this, but these could be a huge tool with the amount of ground units that Solar has and the upgrades for them. If he starts hitting that production, it means less bio, and aLive has, yeah, sure, a mobile army, but getting back to his main base, that's the furthest point he would ever have to travel.
Well, he did take care of it.
Okay.
Just at the end there, so... Here we go, aLive, he basically just has to kill this army. Solar doesn't have a bank, whereas aLive does. He's mining, and here we go, the cloak coming in, and all the snipes going down. A bunch of those Broodlords getting extremely low.
Parasitic Bomb is on these Vikings, splits them a little bit here. Is there enough bio to clean up the Corruptors? That's the question. There's so many Vikings here. The snipes continue. More and more snipes here. He has enough detection, though, to pull the Ghosts back. Some of those Overseers getting sniped by the Marines now, though. The Ghosts, there's no detection for them anymore. The Corruptors have to leave. This is a great trade for Solar. But aLive, he can actually rebuild because he has the bank, like you said. He's making so many Marines right now from all these barracks.
14 at a time.
And Solar can't afford any more Broodlords. He should be investing all of his gas into Banelings right now, knowing that with this even trade, it's going to be bio that's coming out, and mostly Marines. The gas bank is gone for aLive, so Banelings need to be the unit of choice. Use these Corruptors to shut down drops. Maybe even start harassing CCs with them because they're still alive. They can still do damage, but they cannot win a straight-up fight. Harassing a planetary like this, for example, with the Corruptors could be a nice move.
Ooh, yeah, I mean, if he can find it, if he can get on top of that base, but it's a gigantic map, and he needs to have his Corruptors in position at the same time, and he needs to see the base in the first place as well. So, looks like Solar is trying to follow up, but I feel like aLive with that gigantic bank that he did just use is going to have way too much stuff. And this is one of Solar's last mining bases. aLive, he is going to get so far ahead in this game now with this play.
aLive, okay, finds himself caught in the middle of the map. The Corruptors here, so he can't just lift up into the medevacs. Got some Hydras here as well, but this is just so much bio. The Corruptors can't fire down, and that's it, GG. So second upset of the night. It's going to be Biel, of course, who takes the first, and aLive who takes the second.
Definitely a gigantic upset. Solar, he's got to be kicking himself for that one.
This is a massive, massive upset here. aLive takes his first series, plays the better late game, forces it there, gets the better trades, and took the control of the middle of the map. Looks like aLive just knew to play the map better in the late game. Sorry, I misspoke about the Biel being the first upset. It was, of course, Stats who upset Classic in the first series. Biel almost upset, but Dark was able to hold strong there in the third game. Anyways, so we have people being told not to get our camera shots. The cool thing about this series, too, is I feel like it shows the evolution of aLive as a player. Good third base. He was playing macro games, so getting his third base up early, building large bio forces, being patient, never overcommitting on creep, only taking the scans when he absolutely had the massive advantage to do so, or the window. He would scan far away from his army, and then scan a second time to clear the creep. He checked every time before he came in to get those big scans. And Solar's Hydra play, I feel like it wasn't good enough against the style we saw from aLive.
Yeah, the Hydras were pretty lackluster. I wasn't a really big fan of that, but there were definitely a lot of other factors that went into that loss for Solar. Either way, we are going to be jumping into an interview now with the Live. We'll see what he has to say after taking his first win. Congratulations. It took 4 weeks, 4 rounds, but you finally got your first victory. How did you feel about the result?
맨 처음에 스타일을 임할 때는 그냥 지난 시즌보다 잘 해야지라고 생각해서 좀 더 편하게 했던 게 이렇게 3패 시작으로 된 거.
When I first came into the season, I thought I should do better than the last season. So I wasn't trying to get 3 losses in a row. That was definitely disappointing for me. In today's case, I thought maybe I should just do my own thing and hopefully it works out. And luckily he did take the victory. Now in that last set, aLive seemed to have the advantage in the early and mid game, but Solar managed to get into the Hive tech. How are you feeling in that one?
그냥 저는 오히려 초반에 좀 많이 불리하다고 생각했던 게 제가 준비한 빌드가 너무 빨리 붙여가지고
From aLive perspective,
그걸 너무 빠르게
he didn't feel like the Hive was a big factor.
제가 초반에
He actually felt behind in the early game because the build that he chose didn't work out as he had expected.
200대 200 싸움만 자꾸 이길 경력도 지더라고요. 그래가지고
Again, in that last set, I thought I had the advantage in the mid game,
다행히 제가
but
잘 말려가지고 이게 승리에
I wanted to blame my micro. Not sure exactly what he said. He wanted to blame something because he felt like his control was not great when it was 200 versus 200.
I think his hands are too slow. You know, he feels like he's getting older, harder to play. Like we were saying, the joke I was making several times, the StarCraft is hard. Definitely.
That's not a joke, man. That's straight up fact.
Absolutely. So
He tried many times to limit the creep as much as possible, especially in the second set.
해지성 선수 스타일로 그냥 견제 별거 없이 그냥 전망만 제거하다 200대 200 붙어서 싸움 이기려고 한 식으로 된 건데 정신 선수가 너무
And he
잘
says, my game plan going into game 2 was
너무 전막이 없다 보니까
to try to play a bomber style,
싸움은 계속 미드에 되다 보니까
just focus on clearing the creep,
타이밍에 딱그
just do it again and again and again, and then eventually go for one big fight that is advantageous for my position, and then win off of that. And much like Bomber, I feel like it worked pretty well for me.
just talking about the second game, it's funny we made that old reference to Bomber at the beginning of the game.
With the
and
bunker.
And Bomber played that fast third base style. It's very, very similar. I mean, it's an old style from Wings of Liberty. And he's playing it in Legacy of the Void. Very cool to see. He gives the respect to Bomber.
메카닉을 잘 하는 스타일도
Talking about some of his medevac plays, and specifically the Doom drop of Overgrowth,
그냥 투조선하고
aLive admits that it's not a great option. There's a lot of risk involved in that kind of play, but he felt like he didn't have many other alternatives. But he played that way because he didn't feel like he had a big shot at that point in the game.
다른 부분을 포기하더라도 좀 여기에 집중하고 싶다는 의사를 제가 들었는데 그만큼 조금 4라운드의 승리가 뜻깊지 않을까 싶습니다. 앞으로의 각오를 마지막으로
aLive heard commenting that he wants to invest a bit more into SSL. So, what are his thoughts moving forward?
기왕했으면 하게 돼가지고 기분이 더 기대되는 거고요. 남은 경기도 더 열심히 잘 해가지고.
Says he feels double the happiness because it was such a valuable victory.
네, 앞으로 SSL에서
So he's going to work very hard in his matches in the future and try to get into the playoffs.
So there you have it. aLive with a cool upset here. Guys, we are going to go into our next matchup. It is, of course, Maru versus Hero after a bit of a longer commercial break. We'll see you then.